Every day, somewhere in the United States, a signal appears that matters. To find these signals fast, public health surveillance no longer waits for a doctor to officially diagnose a disease. Instead, it listens to the noise generated before a diagnosis even exists. This starts with the National Syndromic Surveillance Program, or NSSP. It constantly pulls anonymized chief complaints and triage notes from over 6,900 emergency departments nationwide. Beneath the streets, the National Wastewater Surveillance System tests sewage. It searches for viral fingerprints, like polio or RSV, often identifying pathogens days before the first patient feels a symptom. At major international airports, the traveler-based genomic surveillance program swabs arrivals and samples aircraft wastewater to intercept novel variants at the border. And globally, event-based surveillance monitors local news, social media, and partner reports, searching for rumors of unexplained outbreaks. But millions of raw triage notes, genome sequences, and social media posts are just noise. To be useful, these isolated data streams must be standardized and aggregated into a single cohesive picture in real time. That standardization happens inside the One CDC data platform, or One CDP. It is the cloud-based core built to replace decades of fragmented, state-by-state legacy systems. The system breaks down incoming data. It takes raw Health Level 7 or HL7 messages, the standard grammar of healthcare, and parses them into discrete, readable segments. These segments are then restructured into electronic case reports, moving smoothly into a unified FHIR bundle. Because this electronic case reporting is FHIR native, the data extraction happens automatically in the background of a clinician's electronic health record. Historically, moving this information required a doctor or nurse to manually transcribe patient details and physically fax forms to a local health department. By automating this extraction, the One CDP architecture is explicitly designed to reduce the manual reporting burden on state and local health agencies by 30%. When an outbreak is confirmed, an internal suite called Ready immediately stands up customized, pre-cleared data pipelines to handle the surge. By reducing the clerical burden of data entry, the infrastructure allows epidemiologists to prioritize the analysis of anomalies over the labor of transcription. Inside this data lake runs the Essence engine. It continuously scans millions of incoming records, looking for any deviation from expected historical patterns. In an Essence scan, a gray baseline tracks expected visits, while the blue line shows observed data breaking upward. As the p-value drops to 0.05, the system flags a yellow anomaly. Falling below 1%, it escalates to red. But statistical flags require biological proof. In a clinical lab, a technician tests a physical specimen and confirms a severe case of influenza A. However, when standard seasonal probes fail to identify the specific strain, the lab returns a crucial result: unsubtypable. In the CDC pipeline, that single word is a hard-coded trigger. That digital trigger dictates a physical response. The specimen is immediately transferred to a biosafety Level 4 containment facility for advanced genomic sequencing. A national response begins only when the mathematical anomaly of the hospital data and the biological reality of the unsubtypable virus align. A novel, unsubtypable pathogen meets a Director's Critical Information Requirement, or DCIR. This is a predefined tripwire that bypasses standard reporting chains to immediately notify senior leadership. Matching a DCIR criteria prompts the CDC to activate its Emergency Operations Center. The EOC scales its response based on the threat. A substantial multi-team mobilization requires authorizing a Level 2 or ultimately a Level 1 full status activation. Behind closed doors, state health officials begin using the secure EpiX network to exchange provisional case intelligence before a single word is broadcast to the public. But here, the automated pipeline halts. Despite advanced language models parsing the data, the One CDP architecture possesses zero autonomous escalation authority. Every algorithmic flag requires a human in the loop. An epidemiologist must manually review the data and explicitly authorize the escalation. Once authorized, the alert moves to the Office of the Associate Director for Science, or OADS. They serve as the ultimate scientific arbiter for any outward-facing public health message. This animated flowchart maps the OADS pipeline: subject matter experts, legal review, and final leadership approval. However, scientific rigor frequently collides with policy review. Disagreements delay documents at cross-clearance gates, creating an accumulation of pending files that favors scientific consensus over speed. As a result, the reaction time of a multi-billion-dollar automated detection engine remains entirely tethered to the speed of human political consensus. Once an alert finally clears OAADs, it is broadcast through the Health Alert Network, the CDC's authoritative channel for urgent public health communication. The 4 tiers of hand messages scale from routine green info services to the highest priority, the red health alert. For each 5N1, this red alert delivers operational parameters. Labs must use accelerated subtyping methods and forward unsubtypable specimens within 24 hours. Instantly, this directive reaches over 1 million clinical recipients, effectively covering more than 90% of the United States population. Within hours, hospital laboratory information systems update their protocols, rapidly closing diagnostic blind spots across the country. By updating medical protocols across the country, a cleared HANAlect converts raw surveillance data into direct clinical action. But the effectiveness of this network relies on its output, and in recent years, the reality of that output has shifted. Historically, the CDC issued roughly 12 HANalerts a year, but in 2025, that plummeted to just 6. Public health leaders warn that internal oversight and leadership friction have bottlenecked these broadcasts, throttling situational awareness. Yet the detection infrastructure, the emergency department scraping, the wastewater testing, the 1CDP algorithms, remains completely intact and actively ingesting data. The true vulnerability of the system lies in its asymmetry. Bottom-up data collection is highly automated, but top-down communication is entirely dependent on central leadership. This structural bottleneck shifts the responsibility outward, directly onto the individual medical professionals operating at the edges of the network. The clinicians and lab directors at the edge of this network are load-bearing nodes. Their proactive engagement maintains the system's integrity when central communication slows. When institutional communication slows, this multi-billion-dollar system does not collapse. Instead, it relies on local professionals to proactively subscribe to the Health Alert Network, independently closing the gap between detection and action.